Hey, this is BJ. Thanks for listening to our show's podcast. If you're a fan of all things geeky, you should check out my other podcast, BJ Shea's Geek Nation. We have new episodes every day, and you can check it out at bjgeeknation.com.
Your driver's license is important so you can get back and forth to work, get your kids to school, and back and forth to daycare. If your license has been suspended because you can't pay your tickets, you can't do any of those things. Let's talk about Chapter 13 bankruptcy. You may have heard the tickets cannot be discharged, but they can be dealt with in a Chapter 13 case. Why not come in for a free consultation? The chapter you choose will make all the difference to your getting back, legally, on the road. Let's design a plan to pay off your tickets and restore your license immediately. I'm attorney Travis Gagne. Please contact me today at ChooseTheRightChapter.com. That's ChooseTheRightChapter.com.
99.9 KISW, the Rock of Seattle. On the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, which, Steve, you talk about a lot, great hockey podcast.
Oh, the best. Those guys are so much fun. They just have a good attitude, and their interviews are great, especially when they chat with guys that are no longer in the NHL. Because the young guys, you can tell, are still a little guarded and probably don't want to say the wrong thing, whereas once you leave the NHL and you don't have anyone to answer to, these old dogs of hockey don't care, and they share some of the best stories.
Yeah, and Wayne Gretzky, what a get that is, man. That had to be exciting for anybody who's got a podcast to have Wayne Gretzky show up.
They said something sort of like we found the unicorn, because like that's like if you're doing a hockey if everyone said what's the one guest you want to have on, it's got to be the great one. And Paul Bissonnette, who's on the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, is also part of the TNT hockey coverage. Like he's part of like their crew that like analyzes the games and does like in between period stuff, and so is Wayne Gretzky. So I got to imagine he greased the wheels to get the great one. And
Wayne shared a great story about a time after he was retired that a youth hockey coach asked him to say some things to his team in the locker room.
As I walked into the arena, this coach, like a 7-year-old team, he goes, "Hey, Mr. Gretzky, will you talk to my team before the game?" I said, "No, I'm the wrong guy." He goes, No, just go in there and say whatever you want. And I said, "Trust me, I'm the wrong guy for you to speak to your 7-year-olds. I'll get a picture." He goes, No, say a few words, whatever you want. And I said, okay. So I went in there and I said, "Welcome to Brantford, and it's a great city. You're going to love this tournament." And I said, "And remember, you're 7. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. It's how many goals you get." And the coach looked at me, yes. And the coach looked at me and I said, "I told you, I'm the wrong guy. At 7 years old, just go have fun. Who cares if you win or lose?"
It's pretty awesome, man. The story was based on, I guess, he was sharing a good story about his dad, who did a lot in Brantford, which is like a small town in Canada where he grew up. And his dad would hold all these hockey tournaments, but when his dad was getting sick, Wayne, after he was done being the greatest hockey player of all time, would just show up and help out his dad. And that's when the parents would be like, "Can you talk to our kids?" And that's the advice that he gives.
And of course, you're like, okay, Wayne, I mean, usually we talk about, there's no I in team and stuff like that. Why would you say something like this? And he explains that it was actually something he learned from his dad.
We had good teams in Brantford. For a little town of 60,000 people, and we'd always play Oshawa in the finals of tournaments and on all Ontarios, and we could never beat them. They were a better team. They were bigger. They had more kids to draw from. I think Oshawa was like 250,000 people. I remember one day I was like 11 years old. I was driving home after a game and we lost game 5. I said to my dad, I just don't understand. We can't beat that team. He goes, "That's the best coached hockey team I've ever seen for 11. They play their positions well." And he said, I'll never forget, he said, "But there won't be one kid on that team that ever makes junior A hockey, let alone the NHL, because they have no imagination and no creativity." And years later, 5 of us were playing Major A, and I remember looking at my dad going, how would he know that when we're all 11 years old? But he had a feel for the game, and he just said, you got to be creative. You got to go out there and be your own person, especially at 10, 11, 12.
Wow, that's really something. Right? Boy, that really says something for, do you know what your job is at the level that you're coaching those kids? Because, getting to be all uniform and coming up with the greatest, team as far as winning, but you're doing nothing for the kids to be prepared for a higher level of play. Wow.
It's kind of something that'll stick, I think, with me for a while. When I heard it, I was just like, whoa, that's pretty heavy. Because, he's not saying, like, don't be a great team player. He's just saying, don't take away what makes kids and the imagination and the exuberance you have out there on the ice. Don't stifle that because you want to have them play like this certain style of game, which really just satisfies the coach and his ego.
Yeah, which again, at 11 years old, that's not what it's about.
Right. And he's a perfect example of that. Wayne Gretzky was scoring like 1 billion goals everywhere he played. He played with guys that were like 2-3 years older than him, and he was playing better than them. It's such an insane story when you think about.
Wow. Good for his dad being able to like you said, have the knowledge. Boy, that's a guy who you think, man, he should have been a lot more involved in professional hockey.
Oh, his dad was super involved, but never like on the level of like coaching in the NHL or something like that. But like he did all these things. I think he cared more about the youth, and probably that was a big part of it. Was like, I don't want to see these kids lose out on the love for this sport because of the coaching.
Wow. That's amazing. That really makes you think, because I know how coaching is done on, in America on for young kids, and it's really not about, I mean, it's been told not to be about individuality, and it's not about winning or losing, but man, stars are stars. If you've got talent and skill, and then, like you said, you can think differently and creatively, that needs to be nurtured, and I don't know if that is. I have no idea.
And that's what he's feeling. Like he says he's starting to see it more in the NHL nowadays with some of the younger guys, because he thinks that's what makes the great ones the great ones. Not to have a pun there, but like, if you just follow the exact way of everyone else and just play the way that the coach wants you to and not try and be an individual, how far are you going to get with that?
Boy, what a great example then from Scott Service.
Yeah, I was thinking about, you think about Julio Rodriguez.
Yes.
Also, in the Padres. I mean, the guy that seems to make people fall in love with baseball again, especially the Padres, that's Tatis guy.
Yep.
I mean, they're like the opposite of what baseball's supposed to be. Boring.
And having a great personality, which lends you to be a really good player, and part of that also maybe giving you an edge over other teams that they just they hate you, and if somebody can be affected, I mean, it makes Scott Service look like a genius for the way of telling Julio, just be you. J-Rod, be you, don't change, don't do anything, and they'll stick with him, which is fantastic, because it seems like he's getting better and better as each game goes by, and it seems like every time I watch highlights, he's somehow involved in some Mariners scoring or Mariners great play, even though maybe the average isn't what they want it to be, right? But then again, I remember a lot of young dudes coming up where the manager just stuck with them, even though everybody said, what are you doing? I remember David Ortiz was not good for the first month or so with the Red Sox. And I remember people going, who is this bloated idiot that we got? I mean, I remember people were pissed off. And then, of course, halfway during the first season, he all of a sudden turned it on and then never turned. But if ever the fans had their way, but the manager knew. The manager's like, we're sticking with this guy. We think he can make it happen. And they just kept that same thing. Just be you. Do what you do. Don't change anything. We know that you'll eventually figure it out.
So you said, would you put Pete Carroll in that category as well? I think that's part of the appeal for a lot of players.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to give Pete credit when you think of all the personalities that we've had. Marshawn Lynch, Richard Sherman, to name a few. And then you realize,
Michael Bennett. I mean, you think of some quote-unquote loudmouth football players, and he took them all in.
Lots of chip guys, too. Doug Baldwin, even though Doug Baldwin didn't say a lot, when he did say stuff, you could tell he was a chip guy. He had a chip on his shoulder.
He did that nickname Angry Doug for a reason.
Yeah. And so you're right, but they were allowed to be themselves. And even Luke Wilson, who we remember was really like Mr. Space Cadet, new agey guy, and the stuff that he said he did to condition himself, and he would be like, they're like, what are you doing, Luke? Why are you going to go see doctor this and doctor that with his big needles he's sticking in your body? But they let everybody be everybody. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. It's a good call. I think you got to give it to Pete, except, of course, there
was a funny part during the interview, though. He was talking about, when he was playing for a team, and I think it was in Indianapolis back before they were he was in the NHL, when they had this other league that eventually merged into WHA.
Oh, right.
Which had Edmonton and Winnipeg and some other teams as well. And they were going to trade him because they're like, well, the team's folding. And they're like, where would you prefer to go? His agent was saying, would you want to go to Winnipeg or would you want to go to Edmonton? They're like, they'll trade you to whichever one. And he's like, I don't know. And the agent's like, go to Edmonton because the owner or the general manager is also a car dealer, and he could probably get you a free car if you.
Wow.
And it's just funny to think about that's pretty much. He wasn't even the main part of the trade. There were other guys that they really wanted. They were just throwing Wayne in because they're like, he's too small, or he's not going to be able to be that great in the NHL. And it turns out, of course, he did.
Wow.
But it's just funny to think it was because of a silly thing maybe we'll get a free car out of the deal.
Wow. And look what he did with the Oilers. And if this guy wasn't a car dealer, he could have been doing that with the Jets, maybe.
Right?
How crazy!
They became a dynasty. I mean, obviously, other players were a part of it, but Wayne was the biggest part of that piece.
I just say, I love it. I love it when they're wrong about the small guys. I don't know why people can't figure out if a small guy is good or not. You know what I mean? I don't know.
They've gotten this far for a reason.
Yeah.
If their size was an issue, they probably wouldn't have even gotten to that point where you're even having the conversation. So they deserve a look.
Yeah, you think of like Jose Altuve, and you think about Russell Wilson. What is it with these small guys that people, and Dustin Pedroia was another small guy for baseball. These guys, like you said, they made it to where they are, and you just dismiss them, and they just go out and they just rake, or they're just throwing bombs. I mean, or they're just scoring prolifically. Yeah, at some point, I think that you got to go, all right, can we find the small guys like Scout? Like, we got to get a so we know for sure that the small guy you're saying is bad is really bad, as opposed to you just saying every small guy is bad.
So it's too bad the Mariners didn't stick it out with Ortiz, because that was a mistake to trade him.
Well, Minnesota
I always forget that he was a Mariner. Yeah,
and you can't just blame Seattle, because the Twins did the same thing. They just thought he was a nobody, and I don't know. It just happens sometimes. There are some teams that just go, "This guy would be perfect in our situation." And
hopefully we'll win that with Russ, where he realized that he was just never going to be good with anyone but the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's hopefully that's the case.
So we get the last laugh.
Oh yeah. Well, very, very. Yeah, it's. I hope we do, dude. I really. What if Drew Lock ends up being a star? Wouldn't that be insane?
That would make me feel better about that Drew Lock jersey I just purchased.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I didn't really.
I mean, that's the ultimate. What if Russell Wilson just doesn't do anything in Denver, and Drew Lock, because like Pete Carroll does, can somehow get miracles out of people that nobody wants and thinks that maybe they're not what they should be? I mean, that's probably why people are thinking that if Baker Mayfield comes here, he will be a star, because of what we did with Marshawn and some other players that just didn't do well in their original joints.
I heard Baker on a recent podcast. I can't remember where. It wasn't a podcast that I had typically listened to, but some people were mentioning how he was really entertaining on it. He just seems like a guy who just wants to have fun. Like, I mean, I know like a lot of people crap on Baker, but he gives off that vibe like he's a man living in he's living like a child, but he's a man. You know what I mean? Like, he's the exact opposite of Russell Wilson. Like, but he's just having a good time playing a sport that he loves.
Well, and maybe who knows if that's not what we need right now.
Just the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Bizarro Russ.
I mean, yeah, maybe that's what we,
guy who doesn't prepare. He's like, I'm not prepared. That's the separation.
Yeah, then somehow that works.
I just show up.
I don't know. Maybe he's just it is going to be, it's going to be fascinating for 4 or 5 games to see how things go for us. And then hopefully, and then if we're really sucking, it's going to be bad if we're like 0-5. Then we'll be like, okay,
man, those Mondays when we chat with Mitch is going to be really a bummer city.
Yeah, it is.
Wow, yeah.
A well-known rock song is the most expensive song to license for movies, TV shows, and video games. What song is it? I'm going to tell you. I'll do that at 8:17 on The Rock.
BJ and Migs, mornings on The Rock, 99.9 KISW.
99.9 KISW, The Rock of Seattle. A well-known rock song is the most expensive song to license for movies, TV shows, and video games. Wow, you wonder, like, okay, how much money people are making just with, one of their old songs or whatever. I never even think about it.
Yeah.
$500,000 that the folks that made the movie Varsity Blues had to pay to get this song. And that movie's over 20 years old.
Oh man. I'm trying to think of what was... I remember watching Varsity Blues, but I can't remember the soundtrack.
I do. Actually, one of my favorite bands, Collective Soul, I believe, they had Run. Actually, a song called Run was on that soundtrack, and it was a popular song for them, and I think it was because of Varsity Blues, to be honest. But that was not the most popular song that cost $500,000. I don't know how much they got paid, but it wasn't $500,000.
Texter suggested this. They're probably right.
Hey, jingity jing, it's Dominic the Donkey.
No.
What's the texter's name? Douche D Bag.
Let me look.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's a 425. That's all I know. It said, I hope the most expensive song to license is Dominic the Donkey.
Yeah, that's great.
True. I didn't text that. I do not have a 425 area code.
Yeah. As far as I know, you don't. I mean, you are
He's got a burner just for that.
I have a burner that I use to text into the station.
Right.
Dominic the Donkey jokes.
You would. You would.
I'm about to do that on Google Voice.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Yeah. All right, so
425 Donkey.
Here's the song. Here it is.
Okay,
this was 20 years ago, and it's been in
it's a rock song. You said
it's been in tons of movies since.
Is it GNR, Sweet Child of Mine?
No,
I was just thinking about that because of the new trailer for the Thor movie.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
I haven't heard a lot of Sweet Child of Mine in movies and TV shows, to be honest, like that.
I've heard it in trailers, but I haven't heard it. Oh, you know, it's a good one. I'm sure it's not this, but I've watched the Batman, at least a third of it, and the way that they use Nirvana's "Something in the Way" is awesome.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, the soundtrack for the Batman is pretty good.
Yeah, that was like, wow, what a great touch.
All right, here is the song that is the most expensive song to license for movies, TV shows, and video games. Man. Wow, $500,000 20 years ago. I wonder how much money they have made off of this song.
Oh my gosh.
Just
And
to
so many
license
movies
it.
use it. So many. I've heard this in so many films.
Yeah.
In fact, they have it listed: Deadpool 2, Thor Ragnarok,
Oh, wow.
Battleship, Iron Man 2, The Longest Yard, Daddy's Home, and Daddy's Home 2, just to name a few.
Well, Battleship really got effed in that deal because they probably shouldn't have paid anybody.
There's way too much money for that.
Probably should spend money on a script.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's
Adam Sandler? Isn't he the Daddy's Home?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he must really like that song.
No, Daddy's Home was Mark Wahlberg.
Oh,
Yeah, you're
that's
thinking
right.
Big
Yes.
Daddy.
Big
Yes.
Daddy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Mark Wahlberg and was it Will Ferrell?
Yeah.
Generally costs between $15,000 and $60,000 to license a song for a movie, TV show, or video game. How about that was $500,000 20 years ago? Wow.
That is so fun. It's interesting because being a wrestling fan, there's a wrestler by the name of Thunder Rosa who's just killing it in AEW, and the guy that runs AEW, Tony Khan, he's actually spent money on getting like rights to have legit songs, not just having like, you know, the in-house music the makers do stuff, and people are like, oh, people chant Thunder Rosa, they chant the Thunderstruck song while she's wrestling. They should get that song, and I'm getting why probably he hasn't done it.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Because you know, Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, he's now in AEW, and people were thinking when he went back there, he would use Europe's The Final Countdown, because that was his song he used in the Indies, and everyone loves that song.
Yeah.
But apparently, it cost so much money for them to get the rights to that. They're just like, we're good without doing it.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, wow.
That's funny you say
Six
that.
figures is what I guess Europe wanted.
Jeez.
That's-
$100,000 or several
Whoa.
$100,000.
Whoa, that's Thunderstruck money right there.
That's the intro song we used to walk on stage to in my old band. We probably owe somebody some money. Yeah.
Oh, I think
Oh, it's a great song.
Yeah, I don't think I'd come after you, Danny. I should let him know, especially if I get a piece of that 100,000.
Yeah, according to one person said that they would only let Bryan Danielson use it 20 times a year, and it would be several $100,000 for them to use that song.
Whoa, 20 times a year. Wow. I mean, for 100,000, for that much money, I'll use it whenever I want.
Right?
Not according to them.
Yeah.
Do you think they kicked themselves and thinking like, well, let's see if they call our bluff? You know, like let's try and get as much money out of this. This will cover our bills for life. And then they get the big no, and they're just like, damn it, we should have probably asked for a little bit less.
Yeah, I see
You don't know
that.
how negotiation works, guys.
We'll do it for $50,000. No, $50 at a time you play it. Come on.
Yeah, you used to think that, well, what if they sold a bunch of albums because of this? You know, like it would be good publicity, but I guess maybe they just don't make that much money off of that anymore, that the only way they can make their money is going, you need to pay us now.
I'd imagine that that's how bands are making way more money these days, is getting commercial rights, movie rights, because like you said, I mean, streaming is not paying the bills.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like people aren't buying as many records as they used to, and we've seen the stats where it's like a song could be played 1 million times on Spotify, and they're getting like dollars for that.
Can you think of a song that you like heard on a movie somewhere that you like went out and bought an album for?
Ooh.
I can only think of one, and it wasn't even a movie; it was a video game.
Was it Tony Hawk?
Yes, Goldfinger. I heard Superman from Goldfinger, and I was like, I need to know who this band is. That's the only one that I've ever done that with, though.
You know, it was on Madden, on the Madden video game, and it was a hip hop song. I think it was YG, Why You Always Hating. Doom,
Oh, yeah.
Doom, doom, doom. Why you always? To this day, I think I even played it while we were on the party bus coming back from the roast. Like that is on my playlist of like pump up songs, and it was all because of Madden.
That's so funny.
I feel like for Rev, Guardians of the Galaxy, did that get you to go into the 70s?
Well, yeah. It really kind of, actually, you're absolutely right, because that's kind of where I got the idea, just to be like, I think I'll listen to Fleetwood Mac's Rumors, and it was because I think Break the Chain was on either Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 or 2, so those really got me into them. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, single soundtrack definitely got me into some of the bands that maybe I wasn't paying attention to, like Paul Westberg and from the Replacements, and the Pumpkins is actually, I kind of fell in love with them because of that. I mean, I liked them before that, but I'm trying to think of like an actual movie soundtrack that made me want to go, I need to buy this record.
Like, buy the record of the artist or of the whole movie soundtrack in general?
Either.
because like I was super obsessed with the Punisher, the movie soundtrack when it came out, and same with the Daredevil soundtrack. I know the movie wasn't liked by many people, but they had some epic soundtracks.
That was a great movie.
I enjoyed it when it came out. I was also in middle school, but
That's the problem. It doesn't matter how old you are. Good taste is good taste.
But funny enough, like
this is making me want to listen to Pearl Jam's 10 even more, Steve.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's the other. I think that's the other problem, by the way.
The movie franchise, though, that has some of the best music is the Shrek franchise.
Oh, good call.
I'm not even kidding.
Good call. You're right. Yeah,
the Smash Mouth covering the monkeys.
Yeah, but then they also had Bad Reputation by Joe and Jett.
Okay.
They had Live and Let Die in one of them as well.
And hold on, they didn't they have in Shrek 5 or whatever? Did they had Weezer also cover I'm a Believer? Yeah. Oh no, it's a good version, but it's not. Okay. You know what? I'm sorry, but I have to disagree. I mean, I look. Is it as good as the original?
The original sucks too.
Oh my God, that is
it's just
sacrilege.
like we're polishing a turd at this point.
I'm a Believer is a great song for the time it came out. Oh man, then I saw Her Face. You know, I mean,
I know the words.
Mickey Dolenz with those sweet voices, and everybody thought it was about Davy Jones, but really Mickey Dolenz was the real singer of the Monkees.
Oh,
are we having a fight about this? We are.
Yeah, it's about the monkeys. My buddy Bandana guy said, duh, the Crow soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Vicky can't argue there.
Did that have...
I think you're thinking of the second one.
Oh, okay, because that had the what the hell is that band?
Yeah, they covered.
The Cure?
Yeah, they covered "I'm a Believer" on the Crow soundtrack. It was
Goo Goo Dolls.
That was the second one.
The Name song, is that one?
Name was from there,
or Iris?
Iris was
the City of Angels
with like Meg Ryan and Nick Cage.
Yeah, that really made an impression on your life, Steve.
Not the Crow.
No, the second Crow I think was called Crow City of Angels or something.
Wow,
like
that conversation has just. I'm never listening to 10, Steve. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's two
That
different.
song's good, man.
Yeah, man. Wherever I heard it, it was awesome. That's exactly how it goes.
Yeah, I don't know any of the words, clearly.
Oh, you don't?
No.
I really thought you did.
You got it stuck in my head, man. I don't
feel
want to
like,
even play it.
Rev, do you have that? You should find that song to see if I got it right.
Got what right?
The lyrics.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I think you got it right.
It's like as if the singer of the Goo Goo Dolls just had a stroke.
And it's not Name. It's another song from the Goo Goo Dolls.
Iris. That was me and my high school boyfriend's song.
Iris? I got to hear Iris because I was playing the Goo Goo Dolls back in the day when I was on the chick station.
Wasn't Name also one of their songs?
Yes. That was like one of their first songs. I don't think it was on a soundtrack.
I think it was just a hit for them.
I got Iris right here.
All right. I remember this. Play this a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Way too much.
What was that Bryan Adams one from like the Robin Hood movie? That was another one that was popular.
Oh, Cuts Like an Arrow?
Everything I Do for You, which is a fantastic song.
Is it really?
Oh, it's one of the best Bryan Adams.
What?
Cuts Like a Knife is really good too. Summer '69 is great too.
Wow.
But it was a really good Bryan Adams song.
Wow.
Everything I do.
No, I think that
do it for you.
Summer of '69 Cuts Like a Knife, I'm going to give you, but I thought he jumped the shark with Everything I Do for You.
Yeah, but I mean
kind of, but still.
You look at his bank statement, I'm sure he's not going to argue with you about that. He'd be like, screw you, BJ, I made money.
Oh, is that what I was going to say? Screw you, BJ.
I made money.
I feel like
I made the money.
Steve, I feel like if any, I feel like even you shouldn't like that song. Everything I Do for You. I mean, I know it's epic, but
at the time, I
Danny,
thought,
you know that one?
I do. It's terrible.
Yeah, no,
shut up, Danny.
Yeah.
I hate the song too, but it was like you heard it so much that now I look back on it, and I'm like, oh,
I hate the song too, but I love it. Is what you're telling me?
It's like a Stockholm syndrome thing.
It's nostalgia at this point because like they used to do that one like at the end of skate night. Like there's a couple skate. They were like had to go ask a girl to skate with you, and it was just so terrible. Like stop playing this.
I love it because Family Guy made a music video to the song, and it was the worst thing ever, and I love it.
Oh,
it was so bad.
You can thank Family Guy for bringing Vicky into the fold.
All right. Oh, someone said, what about Gangster's Paradise?
Oh, that's a good one.
Like
That's a good
that one.
Yeah.
What was that movie?
Oh, Dangerous Minds.
Dangerous Minds.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Yeah, that was a great movie.
Okay, I'm not gonna argue with that. It's not Bryan Adams, so I think we're good.
Everything I do.
Are you trying to make it better?
Yes.
It's not gonna work. Actually, though, the way you just did it now, I like that version better. I like Steve's version much better. All right. Hey, we talked about Machine Gun Kelly only recently because Mick Jagger said he was one of the people he thought gave a good future to rock and roll. Even though Machine Gun Kelly says he's now out of rock and roll.
I know. It was him and Youngblood, I think, were the two artists. Yeah, and you were saying that Machine Gun Kelly is done doing pop punk.
That's what Danny said. Danny, you heard that? He's like, he's going back to hip hop.
Yeah, apparently he's like,
my prayers have been answered.
I made the 2 albums I meant to in pop punk, and now I'm going back to make rap music for me. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, I already conquered pop punk. I know one of my buddies had brought up a good point. He's like, the fact that he was able to make such good records that are pop punk records and he's not a pop punk guy, what does that say about the pop punk genre?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he could just walk in, crush it, and then walk right out and be like, I'm done.
Honestly, he's a genius if you think about it, because he's got 2 #1 records with his pop punk albums, and now he's going to go back to rap, and it's probably he never had a #1 album with rap, and I bet you $20 that's going to go to #1 immediately.
No, for real, nobody cared about his hip hop stuff until he got just wrecked by Eminem in like a diss track war, though some people liked what he did in return.
Yep.
But like nobody really cared about him. A small group of people did, but not a lot. And I think like now he's going to go back into hip hop and probably he's going to bring a lot of people who became fans of him because of this for his pop punk stuff, and he's probably going to have a pretty decent hip hop success for his next album
and make all the money.
All the money.
Here's the problem for MGK. All the stuff we're talking about is not why he's making headlines.
Oh, good.
I just brought it up because it's part of what's going on in his life, but really the headline making thing is the fact that he and Megan Fox are in the news again for drinking each other's blood. There we go, which is what...
They already do this.
Isn't that what they do in the hip-hop community? I think that's if you're ready to go back to hip-hop, you got to be drinking blood because that's what happens. I think that is completely not hip-hop. You're right, Steve. They have done this before. It's been in the news.
About it. I remember when we first got together, we were talking about how like Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie used to keep vials of their blood on necklaces,
which is a little different than drinking it.
Yeah, a tad bit.
Well, and this is the thing. It comes up every time either one of them is talked to. So Glamour UK was interviewing Megan Fox, who I think is no longer going to be the hottest person for people when they hear what she's into and what the hell's going on. I think people are going to go, okay, Megan, maybe it's time for me to find someone else to put in the bed.
Oh, so she's gone off the deep end?
Yeah, because she said, okay. She's like, this whole thing about us drinking blood, let me set the record straight. Yes, we do. Drink each other's blood, but not a whole lot.
Oh, okay.
Still a whole lot more than my wife and I.
In moderation.
Imagine anything that you wouldn't want. Like, I don't know, let's just say cat urine. I mean, I don't care if it's a gallon or a few drops. I don't want any of it. So the idea that she's saying...
Have you tried it?
Yeah. But I mean, idea that she's mitigating this whole thing by saying, we don't drink a lot, so don't think we're weird. It's like, no... Any amount is weird.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Yeah, and she goes, we have a few drops, but we do this for ritual purposes only. When you use the word ritual, when you use the word drink blood and ritual, I'm sorry, but enough of us have seen enough horror movies. Those two words going together do not spell out anything I want to be a part of.
See, now if I'm Brian Austin Green, I'd be like to everyone, be like, y'all will give me a hard time because I'm not in a relationship with them anymore. Yeah. Now do you understand? I was sick of cutting my fingers.
Yeah, that is, I mean, is this so she throws us off the toe thumb thing? Is that why she's doing this?
Maybe that's where she gets the blood from. That's
yeah.
There's a lot of blood in that area.
Megan also, in case you don't know, guys, this is important. Megan Fox now is into tarot card reading. She does that, also astrology, and does metaphysical practices and meditations. Which is that code for she's like doing dark witchcraft? Yeah. Because you're drinking blood.
I was thinking that are mushrooms.
Well, they said they did the ayahuasca.
There you go.
See, ayahuasca I've got a problem with because that is an ancient tradition where, you're not drinking anybody's blood.
So is blood drinking vampires.
Yeah, come on, yeah.
How is
vampires are ancient.
I mean, how's it? Well, vampires
one drinks blood, one poops in the river. What do you want? Same difference.
Okay, first off, you really forgot the story. I pooped in the river long before I had the ayahuasca. Okay. Let's get the timeline straight, sir.
Oopsies.
And secondly, vampires aren't real. Drinking blood's not something I think anybody recommends. That
would be the end of a relationship. Because I saw some people posting it and they shared this story. I saw some people just like, oh, my boyfriend and I do it, or I wish I had someone. I'm like, why? What is happening?
Why are you drinking? So it's the full moon ritual. That's what Megan Fox is saying, that her and Machine Gun Kelly during a full moon, that's when they do the blood drinking thing. And she goes, when I do it, it's a passage or it's used for a reason and it's controlled where it's like, let's shed a few drops of blood and each drink it. Whereas she's saying that he's much more haphazard, and he would just like suck blood out of anywhere. He'd cut his own chest open with broken glass and be like, "Take my soul."
Yeah.
Which means is he kind of doing his impression of Tommy Lee? Is that what when he's doing stuff like this?
Didn't he play Tommy Lee?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I feel like this is
maybe this is just kind of like he's art imitating life.
It's really this is. I just feel like both of them now. I'm kind of like, okay, thanks for coming.
See, I feel like that would be like, let's just say, like we're all hanging out at a bar, and like Danny was in a relationship with Megan Fox, and we're like, Danny, I can't. Like, finally, one of us finally just said, I can't believe you broke up with her. Like, that's just nuts.
Yeah.
And finally, Danny's like, look, you want to know the real reason why? And then he tells us this is what she's into, and he was just getting to the point where he's like, look, I know she's really attractive, but I just couldn't keep drinking her blood.
Yeah, that was.
I'd be like, yeah, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Probably buy me a shot, too.
Definitely. Yeah.
There's just
or give you some wine to maybe give you some weird flashbacks.
Yeah.
There's a lot there.
Now, Vicky, of course, finds me like a picture of her looking super hot, and you're like, oh, well, I mean, guess a little blood.
Imagine her covered in blood.
Well, I mean, it's not like Carrie. She's a little drop of blood. It's not like she's got like.
Yeah, I don't think it's a Bloody Mary's. Like,
well, I don't know. She said that MGK is different. Like he's haphazard. Like he wants to drink. It makes it sound like he wants to drink everything. Yeah, where she says, I just want a couple drops to suit me.
Yeah, I'm much more a fan of just having some popcorn at the end of the night and watching, a show.
This is where I will be called culturally ignorant, because I know there are cultures that probably do this, and there's probably sacred traditions. But this is where humans are just. We're you know what? How can you not think that we human beings definitely are out of our minds? I mean, I don't care what you're into. Fundamentally speaking, everyone has their own belief systems. But this is what I'm saying. Like, one culture looks at another culture and goes, what are you doing? What is this? Why are we, what?
I guess my head was like, well, if you find someone that wants to do it with you, good.
Yeah, I guess if you're not hurting anybody else.
Like, what do I care?
As long as that they're not, like getting goats or then graduate to humans and go.
Well, they did say rituals.
Yeah, I mean, ritual's the wrong word to use. I'm sorry.
I've seen Teen Wolf, and it's scary when it gets down that road.
Rituals are every movie. There's like an altar. There's some virgin involved.
I'm just picturing her with like a cauldron. I don't know why. It's like all of a sudden I'm picturing like the Smurfs or something.
You're absolutely right. I mean, there's like Bette Midler with a fake nose. I don't need this.
Yeah, Hocus Pocus 2.
Hocus Pocus.
Starring Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly.
But this time it's real.
Yeah.
This time it's for real.
It's real to me.
Yeah, it's a little too real for me. All right. Yesterday, Steve, he did get this one right.
A cronut is a cross between a donut and what other food item?
Crouton.
No.
Oh. Croissant.
Yes, a crouton.
Ooh, glazed croutons would be interesting. I might want to try those. I want to try those. Let me try a glazed crouton. All right. You want a shot at beating Steve? You got it. 206-421-ROCK. We're playing Beat Miggs at 8:47 on The Rock.
Today's podcast was brought to you by Travis Gagne, bankruptcy attorney. He's here right now and has agreed to answer more of your questions about bankruptcy. Here's a question from a listener. My house is currently in foreclosure. I've stopped making payments. What can I do to save my house?
If you're already in foreclosure behind on your mortgage, you can stop the foreclosure by filing a bankruptcy. There's different types of bankruptcy. Chapter 13 can help you catch up on your house payments if you're behind. It would mean that you'd have to start making your house payments again and catch up on the amount that you're behind over 5 years. You could also take off or strip off your second mortgage, which would help you to reduce your housing payment every month, especially once you're done with the plan and done catching up on your first mortgage. We could also try to buy you some time by filing a Chapter 13 case. Filing a Chapter 13 would definitely stop your foreclosure.
Thanks, Travis. If you have more questions about bankruptcy, you can reach out to Travis anytime at choosetherightchapter.com. That's choosetherightchapter.com. And thanks for listening.